Well, hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Washington. I am the founder and CEO of Women Veterans Alliance, and our purpose is to connect women veterans with each other. And we have a very special guest here today, but I wanted to introduce you all. If you haven't heard, we also publish a magazine, Women Veterans Magazine. We've published in three states already, and I would like to introduce you to my co-publisher, Christina, who's also going to introduce our special guest.
Hi, my name is Christina Wilkinson. I'm an Air Force veteran, 10 years, and Melissa and I publish Women Veterans Magazine together. Like she said, we published in three states already. We've published in California, Texas, and Pennsylvania just this past year. Um, so I'd like to introduce you to our special guest here, Sagen Maddalena. And I'm kind of just going to go through a little bit of a bio to tell people a little bit about her. Sagen began shooting with her local 4-H club and taught her organization and grandpa, who taught her patience. Having gotten her start as a high power shooter, she quietly emerged on the scene as one of the top air contenders of an air rifle shooting. She earned a spot in the California Grizzly Junior Service Rifle Team, where she helped them win the Whistler Boy Trophy in 2011 and the Freedom's Fire Trophy in 2013. Her coach, Robert Taylor, suggested NCAA shooting, so she went on to learn to both compete in both air and small bore rifle. She walked in to one of the best rifle programs in the country at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and she redshirted her first season in 2013. And she gained a lot more match experience with her coach, Dan Jordan, as he suggested, that she compete in the World Cup tryouts in 2014. That ultimately proved successful as she earned the privilege to compete internationally. She made the World Championship team again in 2018, and during her career at UAF, she was an 8-time All-American from 2014 to 2018. Sagen enlisted on active duty in the Army in March of 2019, and she was assigned to the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit, USAMU, in Fort Benning, Georgia, as a shooter and an instructor. She made her Olympic debut at the 2020 Tokyo Summer Games, where she placed fifth overall in women's 50-meter rifle three positions. Her international success continued in 2021, where she earned three ISSF World Cup medals. And in 2022, she secured two medals at the ISSF World Championships and two gold medals at the 2022 Championship of the Americas game. And just recently, she just got a silver medal in the Olympics in Paris in 2024. And a lot of us got to see her do that. And I also want to say that she's from my hometown, Groveland, California. And I've known Sagen for probably over a decade now, I guess, from when she was in the shooting club with my daughter. So I'd like to introduce you now to Sagen.
Hey y'all, thanks for having me here to share my story. And yeah, that was quite the bio. That's a mouthful.
You've done a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's good somebody wrote it down, right? Because that's a
Yes.
lot to
Right,
remember.
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to remember.
Well, we got some questions for you. Christina, did you want to ask a couple of questions first?
Yeah, these are actually questions, Agent, from people online, which is kind of cool. There's people following you, and there's a lot of people who are really excited about watching this and seeing how you answer and giving you some, especially women veterans. We're really hyped about this. So from 4-H at the age of 13, were you naturally gifted at shooting? And how did that experience lead up to your collegiate career at the University of Alaska?
Yeah, I was not a natural, and I am not a natural or gifted at shooting. I would say I'm gifted at hard work. That might be about it, and being stubborn. So I was not a natural when I picked up the rifle. I just really just enjoyed the feel of it and being able to shoot with the boys and compete. And that kind of drove me to practice. And the more I practiced, the better I got. And so that kind of was almost like an obsession, like a healthy obsession of hey, the more I practice, the better I get, and I can get somewhere with this. And I really enjoyed the work that went into it. And then going up to Alaska, again, it was the hard work. I came in just as a under the table, no scholarship, was a walk on, and really put in the hard work for the first year and a half, and was able to get a scholarship and get a spot on the team. So all of it just came through from the hard work that I did, and not necessarily talent.
Okay. I have another question for you, Sagen. How did you get how are you named? How did your mom and dad decide to name you?
I heard it was just from an old English baby book or something like that. They pulled it out. So out of that, I don't know. I just go with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me ask you one more question. You did grow up in my hometown. I kind of wanted you to talk about what was your life growing up as a kid here in Groveland and kind of the things that you did, without it coming out of my mouth through a bio, to kind of explain how you were raised.
Sure. I was homeschooled. So past second grade, I was homeschooled. And that allowed me to really work on my education. But then in the afternoons or after lunch or during lunch, just to be outside. And I would go out once I got into shooting and marksmanship. I would go out and just practice and practice and practice. We had an arena that had a bank, and I would put up targets and go over lunch and just shoot at the targets to try and get better. But then when I wasn't training or practicing, I really just enjoyed being out in the back roads, up out in the mountains. We had some horses, still have them, and I would just saddle up and go all day and come back in the evening. I don't know how my parents survived without just being stressed all the time, because they would be gone all day, just having a great old time. I didn't even think about any emergency situations or anything. I was just loving life. And then once I started to drive, I had a little pickup manual, and I would go out on the logging roads and just be gone and just drive for a long time. I really got good at that stick shift. I still have one. I have a hard time driving a automatic, because I put my foot on the clutch and it ends up being the brake, and you're like, ugh! So anyways, it's just growing up and just in a community like this, and you have the logging roads and just places for kids to get out and grow up and learn how to be a grown up, and how to life skills, and going out and cutting wood for the winter and cutting firewood, or getting out horseback and or just, out doing target practice and raising horses and livestock and taking care of animals. It's really just the way I was raised, and getting up early and doing good work and being tired and sleeping well, it's just part of a lifestyle. So I love Groveland though, and going into town and getting a burrito at the Mexican restaurant, or seeing people that, you always know people around, and it's just a great little community.
Yeah, it's actually quite magical, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
It really is a neat, magical little place. So, and I'm going to pass this over to Melissa.
Well, Christina, so for some that may not know where Groveland is, would you mind sharing that so people get a visual?
So Groveland's about 26 miles outside of the northernmost gate of Yosemite National Park. And that's here. People would say it's Central California. It's kind of Eastern Central. And depending on where you're at, you could be anywhere from 2,000 in elevation all the way up to, to I think 7,000 in elevation. That's nearby, really. And like what Sagen was saying, the logging roads here are crazy cool. I mean, I drive them a lot because of what I do full time with the Forest Service, and so I can just visualize the stuff that she did as a kid, and yeah, it's fun. It really is. It's a lot of fun. You can get yourself in trouble, but you can also learn a lot too, and that's also very valuable for when you become an adult. So yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Army. So why the Army? First question. And when did you decide? Was this something you thought about during school? What prompted you to join the military? And then specifically, why the Army?
Yeah. So the question kind of evolves into really just one, is as I was growing up in the shooting community, myself and my team, I was on the California team, we would travel to Camp Perry, Ohio for the national championships in the shooting events that we did. And while we were there, we got to compete alongside the Army, alongside the Marines, just the military community. And so you had civilians, you had juniors, and then you had the military community there competing alongside each other for these prestigious awards in mid-range shooting. And while I was there, and I would be there, for over this during the summertime, year after year for the national competitions. And I had my eyes on the different athletes or shooters out there, or military. And the Army, just the way that they held themselves, they were very professional. Not saying the other branches were definitely very professional. It's just the Army was, they ended up coming out on top, and as a kid, you're like, who's winning? I want to be a part of who's winning. And they were coming out on top, and they were very personable with civilians and being able to answer questions. As a kid, going up to some guy in OCPs and being like, I want to be like you. How do I be like you? And they were open to it and were able to answer my questions. And it just really drove me to want to be a soldier and be in the Army. And I had the opportunity as an 18-year-old. The Army Marksmanship Unit, so they're a unit within the Army that focuses on competition and instructing soldiers. So teaching soldiers how to do marksmanship, how to come home from overseas. And they offered me a spot on their team in the discipline that I was shooting at the time, which is called service rifle. So it's a civilian style service rifle, primarily just for competition, right? And I turned it down. I ended up turning it down, and I went to college because I was given the idea from my coach at the time, hey, you can change disciplines. So I was shooting a service rifle. He said, you can change disciplines and shoot international and shoot around the world, and not just in the country at Camp Perry, Ohio at national matches. You can shoot and compete worldwide. And that kind of sparked an interest. I'm like, well, I can compete across the world, not just the nation. And so I made that change. I worked for a summer after I graduated high school just to be able to get enough financial stability to purchase my own equipment, and to also communicate with the colleges, find a college that would let me at least try, because I didn't have the experience in that discipline, the college discipline, so air rifle and 22. I had more experience in a different style of shooting, so I had to learn. I had a big learning curve I had to take. So I shot through, or competed through college, did 5 years in college, and I realized, hey, I still want to do this. I still want to compete. And the Army Marksmanship Unit also had a team for international rifle, which it's what I do now. It's what I was doing at the time in college. And I went up to their, we call him our team chief, and the coach of their team at the time. I'm like, hey, is there an opportunity? What can I do to be able to get on your team? And I was given the opportunity. I was given the letter. Hey, if you want to join, you got to go through MEPS, go through basic training, go through AIT, pick your job, and you'll come to the unit. And I was hesitant at first. I graduated college and I went down to Colorado Springs and trained at the Olympic Training Center for a year because I wasn't sure. It's like, do I want to commit to this? Like, do I want to join the Army? But the whole time, even since I was 18 years old and up, there was something just pulling at my heartstrings and at my mind, like, hey, I want to serve my country. How can I serve my country? And finally, there was just this one day, it's like, yeah, I'm going to go to the recruiter station. I'm going to do this. Like, I want to become something bigger than myself. Like, I'm just competing for myself right now. I want to become something that isn't really Sagen anymore. It's the United States of America. And so I made that jump, and I went to the recruiter's office and signed up. And it's been so many just rewards from it, and not monetary or actual like rewards that you think of. It's more like, hey, I've got sustainability, I've got purpose, and it's really driven me And so that's kind of the Army story that I got for you. It keeps going, since I joined, now I'm an Olympian, but that was definitely the foundation of my career.
So with that, so what year did you join the Army?
I joined in 2019.
So you joined in 2019. You're still on active duty?
Yes, yes.
So what is your day-to-day job?
Day-to-day job, it, like, as you know, it fluctuates and it changes depending on what season we're in. But a big part of my job is a routine, and it's discipline of going to the range, training time, equipment maintenance, testing ammunition, testing guns to make sure they're to the standard that we require. A lot of range time, as I said, physical fitness. We do our PT in the afternoons because in the mornings, I mean, by 7:30, you're out on the range already. You're training. Before that, you might be doing some computer work, but it's a full day of just range time, training time, prep. And then in the afternoons, it's PT, doing physical fitness, mental fitness, before calling it a day late in the afternoon to do it all over again. But that's the general routine. There's other times where we get to go out on trips, be coaches, be able to teach civilians or teach the force, the Army, marksmanship skills. And then when that season's not going on, it's competition season. And that means TDY, travel, airplanes, airports, buses, all different sorts of countries, India, Europe, and Egypt, all different places that we get to go and compete. And you're competing against other civilians in different countries. So it's, yeah.
So Sagen, when you went in, did you know you were going into to munitions full time, that you were going to be shooting, that you were going to be doing this full time?
Yes, I did know that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I always have to joke about my Air Force experience when I wore two contacts in basic training and I lost one, and I refused to wear those Clark Kents, or as they referred to them in the Air Force at the time, birth control glasses. So I wore one contact lens. So during my marksmanship, which I didn't get marksmanship, obviously, I feel like the guy next to me or the gal next to me, I shot their target quite a bit. I definitely did not do as well as what you've done. But so somebody was asking, so everybody's journey to the Olympics is different. Um, describe your path to the Olympics. I know you talked about you went to the Olympics after, what was it, after college, before
Yes.
you signed for the Army. Um, when did that bug happen? What exactly sparked that to make that bug happen? What was the epiphany?
Yeah, there's two epiphany points. One, I was still in college. This was Olympic trials 2016. I was in Camp Perry, Ohio. I had I had a couple years under my belt with the air rifle discipline. And at that point, I was very inexperienced and kind of clueless of the travel schedule and the professional athlete type of competing that there is. I was a college kid, just really getting my feet wet in the sport. And at that competition, I came in second overall, and that was the Olympic trials, and I came in second. Now, granted, there was a lot of mental training that I did, training up. Like I had my mind set on the Olympics, but it was almost like a amateur or inexperienced drive, right? And I took second. I was super happy with myself. I was Olympic alternate, like, hey, this is really neat. But that was just kind of just a piece of sand. Like, it really wasn't that huge drive that actually happened. So the Olympic mentality. It wasn't until I was actually in Tokyo, in the village. I made the Olympic team in 2020, so the 2021 games in Tokyo. And I was in the village and I was like, yeah, I want to come back. I want to be an Olympian again. And that was the true fire in my belly. That's when it really started, is I was at the Olympic Games and I was like, that's when the really that fire was lit. and it drove me straight into Paris with an entirely different viewpoint, competition point. Like I became more of a competitor. Before I was just just someone along for the ride.
I was
Really
just
just
going to say along for
enjoyed.
the ride.
Yeah, I was along for the ride, really just enjoying being able to compete with everyone. And this switch happened and it became, all right, I'm along for the ride, but I'm here to win and I'm here to compete and become as good as I can get. And so that was where the click happened, was 2020, the 2021 Olympic Games in Tokyo.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. And I did want to share that some of these questions came from Karen Cantor, and she's a big fan. She's also a soldier athlete herself, so she had a lot of good questions. And it seems from those also knows a lot about you. So I think she probably knew the answers to the questions. She just wants to hear you say the answers
Yeah.
to the questions.
Yeah.
So with that. I mean, you talked too about, the mental aspect, but what also too, I mean, the physical aspect as well, and the demands and that takes a toll on your body mentally and physically. How do you do? What is your go-to method, or how do you work through that?
Yeah, that is an evolving journey that I'm still taking. I am an older athlete, so at 31, it's kind of that's the older athletes in this sport.
Wow.
A lot of it's teenagers these years that are just kicking our butts. And the reason why is the sport. It's not a contact sport. It's not like football or soccer or one of those. But you're standing still in position for hours and hours at a time, and you get these overuse injuries that occur. And I learned that the hard way. I had shoulder surgery in college because I overtrained, and I overtrained in the wrong position. So I was so stubborn and I was trying to get good that I didn't train correctly. And so I caused an overuse injury, ended up tearing my shoulder and had to get it replaced. And that was actually a necessary thing for me to go through, because I learned, hey, you got to take care of yourself and you got to train correctly. You can train hard the wrong way and it's going to slow you down, or you can train hard the right way and it's going to propel you forward. And so I learned my lesson, and now I do quite a lot with physical training of cardio, so the endurance, but also for my size and the person like my stature, I have to do quite a lot with strength training, being able to build the muscles around my shoulders, keep a strong back, strong hips to withstand the time and position, and to reduce any type of overuse injuries. And it's up to 5 days a week, physical training, every day, getting that time in to sustain and also build those muscles up. The older I get, the more those injuries are going to keep rolling in. So I got to continue that training regime. And people, I've heard plenty of times, hey, shooting's not a sport, and you're not an athlete, right? But the longer I do it, the more I'm like, no, it's definitely, you got to be an athlete up here in your head. You got to train your mind, but also the body has to withstand this type of the movements in this sport. So I guess that answers the question.
And then what about mentally? The physical part, but also like, are you, maybe are you listening to music before you do stuff? Are you doing breathing exercises? What are you doing?
I am a fan of being in the present moment. And so what I do to become like present, be that acting mindset, like do action, not think it, do it. It's deliberate breathing. So get in the present moment. So like you just mentioned, listening to your breath, getting into a routine, and it brings you into, hey, this is what I'm doing at this time, and not thinking about the past or the the future, even the present. So what will happen sometimes for athletes is they start thinking about what they're doing. And it's almost like a kid trying to learn how to walk. They're not allowing the work to actually take place. They're getting in their own way. And for me, I try and get out of my way, let the work take place, and just subconsciously go through the movements in a conscious way. I do not listen to music before or even during. It's rare. Sometimes I do. Like my teammates would be like, wait a second, you listen to music. Sometimes I do. But the thing that I find with music is it's distracting. And I'll start listening to the music instead of doing the work. So I'm doing the work, but I'm not actually present in the moment because I'm listening to the music. So what I'll do is I'll actually put on classical music or instrumental music so that the tune is there to help my mind or maybe calm it. If I need a calm mindset at the moment, I might be going through. There's days when you wake up and you don't want to train, or there's days and something has happened outside the range and it can be distracting. Where, life lessons, life goes on. And so you have to be able to calm your mind down somehow. And so that's when I bring in the tunes, and I'll listen to some classical music just to give my mind a little something. But I do try and stay in that present moment. And I get to that moment by doing deliberate breathing, trusting the process, and just having that action mindset.
So tell us about a setback you've actually had that really rattled you. Any type of setback you might have had that you just weren't expecting, that wasn't like you. That I mean, I know like there's different things that can cause that. You just don't know at the moment what it is. But have you had anything like that?
Many, and actually now I enjoy the setbacks because I know that it'll make me stronger and I'll propel forward. Let's see. One of them, I would say one of the more recent setbacks is when I first joined the Army, and I went from a huge routine of basic training. You have the routine. You're not doing anything. You're just doing what you're told, right? And you go through basic training. Then I went through advanced training and really got connected with the guys in my unit, just the way we work together, and new soldiers trying to figure ourselves out. And we had great instructors. So I just went from everyone telling me what to do and doing what I was told, right? And then I got to Fort Moore, or Fort Benning at the time, and things kind of opened up. It's like, hey, you are a soldier now. You've graduated. Now you're a soldier. And I went into this depression mode, and it was kind of a dark time in my life. I was living in the barracks, and all that I was doing was training, being at the range. I practically lived at the range at the time, or at the office, or I was in the barracks, and I was trying to get out and do stuff, but really I was pretty obsessed with training, and I got into this really dark spot, and my performance went down. So the harder I trained, the worse I competed. And it created a spiral, right? And I was in that spiral for almost a year, and then COVID hit, and it created even more of that spiral. And I got into a really dark place. And, but I reached out, I got help, I used my resources and became part of the community, really got involved with Columbus, the town around Fort Moore. Made friends. I took that conscious step to dig myself out of that hole, and ever since then it's just been kind of a steady increase and I can catch myself now, and when I start to get into a slump, and I can help other people too who are in a slump because of that setback. And I would say that's the biggest setback that I've had to overcome. And it was more of a setback for me than the surgeries that I've had, or the broken bones, or the physical injuries, because it's almost like the mental injuries, the unseen is much harder to get through. But you can get through it, and once you get to the other side, you're a lot stronger.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? I don't even know fun, but what do you do besides this? So there has to be something else you do, whether you watch programs, I don't know. What do you do?
I enjoy fishing, so I'll go out and fish. It's different than growing up in Groveland, where you have, trout streams and you get up high. In Columbus, Georgia, we've got bass and catfish, and I'm like, all right, hey, fishing's fishing. So I've gotten into bass fishing, and every once in a while I'll go out catfishing, but they're pretty slimy and they grunt at you. But I like bass fishing, getting out on the kayak. I've got a dog. I hang out with her a lot, and then after that, it's just being outside. Whether it's just working on my neighbor's property, helping them mow, weed eat, fixing fence, whatever it is that just helps me reset my mind, and just I really enjoy that stuff. Really, just being outside, and working outside.
Well, let's talk more about Paris. You got to go to Paris. What was that experience like? I mean, when you're on the plane and when you're landing in Paris, I mean, were you nervous? Were you excited? All the above? And did you get to see Paris?
No, not really.
Oh,
So
Bummer.
I know, right? Well, then again, let's see if I can explain it really well. I drove down from Germany. I was in a training camp with a handful of other shooters and our coaches, and we drove down from Germany into France to the venue that we were staying at. So in Paris, the Olympic range was actually outside of Paris. We were 3 hours or so away by car from the main hub in Paris, the main village. So we had what we call a satellite village. So we stayed in an old boarding school. We had great rooms. We had AC. Everyone's hating on the living conditions there, and I'm like, hey, I had AC in my room, and the food was okay, and the range was beautiful. They had a great venue down there. And I did get to see Paris so I got done competing, and we drove up to the Paris village, and I did get to see the Eiffel Tower and some of Paris. So that was a good experience for sure. But overall, being in France, even before I left the USA for France, it was about a year before I got this thing in my head where I'm going there to work. I'm going there to do my job and to do it to the very best of my ability without allowing distractions to come in. Now, I'm not saying, oh, I'm going over there not to have fun and just be rigid. Like I wanted to experience it, like I experienced the Olympics in Tokyo, but here the mindset was I'm going to win, and I'll enjoy it once I've done my job. And that's what I did. I stuck to that plan. And so I wasn't doing sightseeing or very much. I got to go out. The main village center was 1.5 miles from where we were staying. So I went out for walks and did my PT, went out and ran during the day and got to see the community, but I wasn't doing much sightseeing or playing around, hanging out, because I was there for a purpose. I was there on a mission, and that was to come home with a medal and a podium in my events. Yeah, that's the best.
uh-oh.
Yeah, she froze.
She froze. That happens. Oh, she's coming back.
You gonna be able to edit this part out?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask her about.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right,
That was
we're
quick.
back. We're
That
back.
was less than 30
Oh, I have
seconds.
a question for you, Sagen.
Yeah.
So how about your parents? Did your parents get to experience watching you shoot in person?
My dad did. My dad got to experience. He was there in the stands, and he got to see the whole event take place.
Now, why wasn't your mom there? I think there was a funny story there, wasn't there?
I I don't know if it's a funny story, but someone she just decided to stay home, which was fine. Someone has
No,
to take care of
I think it was on television. She missed you, is what it was. I think I think she missed seeing you because she had the timing wrong, is what it was, or something.
Oh yeah, that is right. So mom stayed home. Dad went to Paris with me, and mom has a clock in the kitchen. I've actually seen it, and it has Sagan's time, so where Sagen is in the world versus what the actual time is. And yeah, she missed the time, so she missed the competition. But hey, that's what reruns are for.
Exactly.
So her
Exactly.
and I can watch it together.
Yeah, because I know my husband stayed up just to watch it, and because I know it was on a really weird time, California time, and
Yeah.
so he stayed up just to watch it. And of course, he left notes for me by the time I got up the next morning and stuff like that. So, but I had remember your mom said something about missing your shooting, and I was like, oh, I felt
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
So the medal, where do you keep, where is there like you keep it in a safe? Do you keep it on a shelf? Do you keep it, where do you keep it?
Well, it usually just stays in this sock. So I've got this sock that I'll put it in. Um, but I've got it out here. It's just hanging out in the table.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it doesn't really have a home yet.
Very cool. I guess so I heard tomorrow you're going to be in a parade.
Yeah, they've have me scheduled as a grand marshal for Groveland. So I'll be over in the parade and hanging out with the kids, answering questions, and just being a part of the community for a little bit.
That's awesome. It's so great too, as a woman and a mom to a daughter, to have people like you to be an inspiration. And I'm sure you get young, well, I'm sure older people as well, but just to have that. And I remember seeing when one of the interviews, I forgot who the person was, someone on NBC had interviewed, and it said something about this is for the soldiers, right? That's why you do this. And it was great to point out too that you are a woman who is serving in the United States Army. Um, and we couldn't be more proud of you.
Mhm. Absolutely proud.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And one of the things I wanted to share a quick little video. So I earlier in September, I was in Washington, D.C. at the Women Veterans Summit, and one of the opening speakers was the Deputy Secretary Tanya Bradshaw for the VA, and
Okay.
she had just come from the Special Olympics, so she was sharing about that. So I'm like, okay, maybe she's going to talk about the other Olympians. So I'm like, okay, so I got out my phone and I recorded this, which I would like to share with you. And this is in front of the audience there. And it was pretty cool to see that. We have two Army Marksmen. Sergeant Rachel Towser competing in her first games. A dream of hers since she was 12, representing the Army with honor in trout shooting. And Sergeant Sagen Maddalena, after setting the Olympic record in the first round of the 50-meter rifle three position event, took home the silver. These two women who honed their shooting prowess day after day at the Army Marksman Unit make our country and our military proud. Last week, I had wanted to share that with you.
No, thanks for sharing.
You do make
Yeah.
us proud.
That's awesome.
Great. What else you got, Christina?
You know what? I don't really have much of anything else. I'm probably going to come up with stuff and ask Sagen tomorrow when I see her in person.
Yes.
There you go.
But Sagen is signing posters, I hear, tomorrow. There are custom posters that Women Veterans Magazine donated for tomorrow, and we are getting 5 of those posters back for Women Veterans Magazine. So you'll be signing those for us, Sagen, and I don't know how we're going to give those away, but we'll figure out a way. And looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah,
And
same here.
Stephen, where are you at on social media? So for those, because this is people are going to be watching from YouTube, from our YouTube channel, and how can
Okay.
they follow you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am on social media sometimes. I
He has a
have,
publicist.
yeah, I have a Facebook account and an Instagram account. Now, I have had issues with people creating false accounts, but you'll know it's me if you see all the fishing pictures on there. Um, I think it's Sagen Maddalena. It's just one word, Sagen Maddalena. And so yeah, I'm on both Facebook and Instagram, and I'll get on there every once in a while and post some fishing pictures or something. I let my mom post all the competition stuff.
So where do you see yourself? I know people say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself at
Oh,
the next Olympics? And after that?
Yeah, so in 5 years, I see myself. That'll be right after the LA games, and it might be taking more of a coaching role, or so I'm not sure how long the mind and the body can withstand the sport. I'm gonna keep pushing, but once the body says no, I'm gonna follow suit. Um, uh, but yeah, I'll compete as long as I can. Definitely through Paris, or not Paris, LA 2028. And then past that, I'll see what I can do to start giving back. Well, I mean, I try and give back now, but making it more of a priority to take more of a coaching role, or um, that type of leadership. So
Now, if you were to get out of the Army, just is not saying this is happening. So say you got out of the Army, can you still you could still compete in the Olympics, right? Are those tied
oh yeah,
together? Yeah. Okay.
no, you can definitely still compete. We have plenty of civilians and um, others competing in this event in the Olympics. But I'm sticking with the Army. I'm gonna make a career out of it if possible, and as long as I can stay mentally and physically fit and able to do my job, I'm definitely gonna stick with it, just because of I mean, like I said, it's doing something more than just for myself. It's for the United States, and it's a humbling place to be.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you very much.
Well, thank you again, and enjoy the parade there in Groveland. And we look forward to seeing you in 2028 in Los Angeles.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Bye.
we'll see you later, Christine.